this week in sort of equal parts training camps where the Ravens are on the backfields out in Owings Mills, and of course showing up downtown for some fireworks on Saturday. And I was out with my wife on a glorious Monday night of practice out there amongst the fights that broke out at the stadium out on the field. And of course there's a fight in the American League East as well, and the Orioles were in first place, starting off things with the first place Texas Rangers. And here to talk all things Rangers on the backside of a very, very active trading deadline, we welcome in the longtime voice of Texas Rangers baseball. I think of him as a Kansas City Royal, and he's a Hall of Famer there as well. Saw him toe the rubber many, many nights out on 33rd Street trying to beat up on my Orioles back in the 70s. He is Steve Busby. Pleasure to have him back on WNST, one of our defending champions. And Steve, just a little bit going on around that trading deadline. Wow, what a haul for the Texas Rangers on Monday, huh?
Well, Nestor, you're right, and a lot of people will say, well, they didn't get any pitching, which is what they were really after. But what they did do is shore up the offense. Now that they lost Prince Fielder and had been without Shin-Soo Choo for a while, the offense was a little bit short. Went out and got Carlos Beltran, went out and got Jonathan Lucroy, and both good quality offensive players. So it looks like the offense is back up to speed. They also had a Jeremy Jeffress who will fit in the back end of that bullpen very nicely. He had been the Brewers' closer, and Rangers now have about four guys down at the tail end of the bullpen that can close. So no starting pitching, but they've looks like they're going to score a few more runs and be able to shorten up ball games at the same time.
Steve, I don't think anybody knows pitching as well as you. I mean, you threw some no-hitters, and I remember your heyday as well in the mid-'70s. Pitching still where it's at. Are you of the mindset that they came up short? I mean, what was your wish list? I mean, we didn't see a lot of pitchers change hands. I mean, the Orioles got Wade Miley. I looked at it and thought, well, for as shallow as the pool is in the Orioles farm system where they're hamstrung, they haven't scouted well enough. They don't have enough prospects even to feed their own pipeline, let alone to be trading them away at the trading deadline. But for them to get Miley and Pierce, I feel like they did as well as they could do. But, no one got Chris Sale in the end, right? And given this free agent market, the best acquisition for the Rangers probably happened a year ago in Cole Hamels, and that is a big part of why they are where they are right now.
Well, you're right about that. It's a big part of why they went to the playoffs last year, and hopefully will be playoff bound this year too. But pitching has been in very short supply. It's just one of those quirks of the market this year. Matt Moore, the one guy that the Rangers probably missed out on, that even ended up going to the Giants. But the Rangers, if they get Darvish back to pitching at 100%, and they get Colby Lewis back, Colby was a big loss for them about a month ago. They feel pretty good about themselves in the pitching department. Again, the bullpen's going to make up for some deficiencies in the starting staff, as strong as the pen looks down on the tail end of it.
Well, I think here in Baltimore, we have to look and say, well, we didn't win the trading deadline. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But who did? And certainly looking at the Rangers, looking at the Indians, looking at the Nationals, looking at the Cubs, the Red Sox. I mean, all of these teams did things over the last couple of weeks to really, really fortify. This is going to be a really, really fun run to the end. I think especially in the American League, I think some things are kind of solved in the National League, or at least appear to be. It's never solved, as we know, but it looks to be. In the American League, there's going to be a wild race here in October and some pretty good baseball teams.
Yeah. You look at the Eastern Division, where the Orioles certainly are one of the top teams right now on top. You have three teams. You have at least two and maybe three teams in the Central, and two teams certainly in the West. So you've got 8 teams that look like they are strong contenders. I don't think anybody right now can say this team is head and shoulders above the rest. It's going to depend on how the changes to each team, how the Indians changes, how the Orioles changes, the Blue Jays and Rangers changes, how they affect the team and how they start playing in the next few weeks. That'll go a long way to telling who's going to play in October.
Steve, I know you spent a long time in New York, and I don't know if you view it as the evil empire, through your days out at the Hill, Yankee Stadium, the old Yankee Stadium. But, the sell-off for the Yankees, that's kind of... It's a breath of fresh air for me, but I don't know that I want to see him in 18 or 19 with three of these first-round draft picks coming through the system and maybe getting out there to beat us up then, and then them having the kind of money to chase whatever Machado or Harper's out in the market. But this was certainly a different type of thing and something we haven't seen for a generation in a Yankee sell-off.
Yeah, I think it's kind of fun for people to say, "Oh, look at the Yankees; they are mortal." We've been looking at them not do anything because they were gifted with everything that money could buy for the last several decades, and now to see them where they had to be sellers, it's kind of fun to say that. It's kind of a shock, I think, for everybody in baseball. But they've decided that the best thing to do is amass the current currency of baseball, and that's young talent, and see if they can't get something to develop out of that. They'll be back. There's no doubt about that. That's the bad news, I think, for the Eastern Division.
Steve, I know I talked to some other folks from deep in the heart of Texas about the new stadium down there and air conditioning. And, you go to Houston, you go to Tampa, Miami, Arizona, these other awfully hot places. And Texas is still the place where you're out there baking, at least in the meantime. Luke Croy coming in as a catcher. I know he's got the Louisiana background. That's always an interesting position there, right? I mean, and I know you go back to the days of coming in there as a visiting player. It's a little different when it's, 101 in Texas on a summer night, but the Rangers have to sit there and live with it. I know it's been a storyline since back when you were a player going into the old Erector set down there in the early 70s. But, for a catcher, it's a different vibe coming into Texas.
Yeah, it is. You have to adjust things. And, I really still think it's more difficult for the visiting team coming in there and playing 3 or 4 days than it is for the guys who get used to it. And the Rangers do a lot of things to mitigate the effects of heat. They don't take batting practice on the field every day. A lot of great facilities under the stands and in the cool and the air conditioning cool. So they can take care of that. They pay much more attention to making sure they're hydrated, making sure the nutrition is proper. So it's not quite as bad as it was, say, in the 70s when people were just figuring out exactly how you handle the 100+ degree heat for several weeks in a row.
Steve Busby joining us here from the Texas Rangers play-by-play team. Several decades now, deep in the heart of Texas with the Rangers and Tom Grieve and doing some broadcasts of some pretty good baseball down there. But, man, I associate you with the powder blue, and I see your name on the wall out there at Kauffman when I did my baseball tour last year. And I went into Kansas City right in the heart of all of it. I was out there for the ALCS 2 years ago, last summer, into the middle of the pennant race. Boy, that thing is sort of falling apart a little bit, and it really is how quick something can break apart even after a nice, glorious peace. And I'm sure with your history in Kansas City, it was a joy for you to watch them celebrate last year, right?
Well, I was really happy for the people in Kansas City, and it had been 30 years for that team to have a championship. And Kansas City, the Kansas City fans are great. They come out and support that team, and they could approach 3 million if they had enough seats in the place. But I felt great for the city of Kansas City. I felt good for the organization. And I think the collapse this year, or falling back this year, I shouldn't say a collapse, it shows you how tenuous a smaller market team's hold on success can be. The Royals, couldn't make up for a deficiency in pitching. This year, injuries hit them, and they just didn't have the wherewithal to counteract that. So, hopefully they'll be back. They've still got a pretty good nucleus of a ball club. One thing I do know is the fans out there are going to support them no matter what.
Steve, we got a little Bermuda Triangle going on here now that we've set sail and cut bait with the Yankees. It's going to be the Red Sox, the Blue Jays, and the Orioles. You're coming in for this 3-game series, and, obviously we're trying to figure out the pitching, right? And the Wade Miley thing, and you saw Gallardo do his thing in Texas. Assess where the Orioles are in the middle of this, because it's been an unlikely first-place year for them. I don't know that anybody picked this to happen, and I think we all looked at the pitching and sort of scratched our heads and knew that it would be suspect at some point, and they're trying to do everything they can do to salve it, but boy, can they hit the baseball around here.
Yeah, I think they do 3 things very well. As a matter of fact, they hit the ball out of the ballpark. There's no doubt about that. They catch the ball very well. They're among the league leaders in defense. And the tail end of their bullpen. The bullpen has been just lights out. So those are 3 pretty good things if you're going to build a team for success. I don't know if you'd start necessarily with one of those, but those certainly would figure in prominently to the makeup of a ball club. The starting pitching is, as you said, not been as strong as they would like. That it hasn't filled out the way they would like, but that bullpen can make up for a lot of deficiencies. And, if you score enough runs, it really doesn't matter what your starting pitching looks like.
Man, when you came up, I guess in that era with the Amos Otises and the George Bretts in your own organization and Splittorf and all those sort of Frank White and the Royal School that the guys came, the baseball academy and all that stuff. I have never seen an era, and I'm pushing 50 at this point, Steve, where we've had more young talent. I mean, every ballpark that we see every night, whoever the Orioles are playing, they've got 2 or 3 of their Profars or their Mazzaras or their Scopes or their Machados. It really is kind of a glorious time for young players in baseball, and it's fun to have the Orioles so relevant, but to see every other team hopeful of having their own franchise player that when you buy a jersey with the name on the back, at least the guy's going to be there a little while.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people saw this coming a few decades ago, and that with the advent of arbitration and the increase in salaries, people said, well, what you're going to have in a brief while is you're going to have the top marquee players making a lot of money. You're going to have to find a way to have some affordable players on the downside of things, and that's where the young talent comes in. A lot of them are being rushed to the big leagues because it's cost effective, and it's great for fans because they get to see these guys grow up right in front of their faces. But it's also tough for the midline major league player who's making $8 and $10 million. I scoff at that as if it were nothing. But
we've given Gallardo and Jimenez $11 and $12 million, and they've struggled to be fifth starters here all the way along the line. And I don't think anything makes the old man crazier here than spending money on pitching and have it not work out. And it's already a tough place to recruit pitching to Camden Yards. It's almost like Coors Field in that way. Pitchers don't want to pitch here, so you have to grow them. And when you grow them and you see Arrieta winning 20 games down the street, it's tough. But they're still in first place. But they're so devoid of pitching.
Yeah, you're right, and pitching still is the currency of baseball. Young pitching, as we saw during the trade deadline, was what everybody was after, and that's what exchanged hands to bring proven players to the different teams.
Well, that's how you get the gold to make the deal. Steve Busby, been calling Texas Rangers baseball for a long, long time. So tell me about the Texas-Houston thing down there. I mean, the Astros, to me, if you would have given me $1 in March, and I said I played this game on the air with everyone during spring training, if I give you $1, put $1 on an American League team and a National League team to make the playoffs. I picked the Astros. Clearly, their start was horrific, and they've sort of come on and then faded back a little bit. That rivalry would be a lot better if it weren't so lopsided, right?
Well, it's growing, and certainly the Astros have proven over the last couple of years that they are on the right track. You talk about young players. They've got a bunch of them that are kind of melding into one very efficient unit. They're going to be tough. They're going to be tough now. They are tough now. They're going to be tough for quite a while, and if they ever get their pitching problems solved down there as far as a quality starting pitching rotation, they're going to give folks a lot of trouble. That's a team that learned a lot last year about going through the season and coming up a little bit short. And every time you go through something like that, you learn more and you're even better the next time out. So the rivalry is there. It's going to get better. And the state of Texas, they can look for some crazy times in baseball.
Yeah, it's going to be a good September, and I would think in October coming to Dallas, where they maybe upscale upstage the Cowboys before it's all over. Look, man, I got to tell you, I talked to Tom Grieve, and you got players, you got executives in the television booth, and obviously a wealth of experience. But you going from the color to the play-by-play, man. I mean, Palmer's tried to pull that off, and a few guys. I've done sports radio for 25 years, and people always say to me, man, you'd be a great play-by-play guy. I did play-by-play once in my life, and I can't think of anything I'm less equipped to do than do play-by-play, man. So I tip my cap to someone that could school themselves up to become such a good play-by-play guy.
Well, Nestor, I really appreciate that. Thank you. It's been a lifelong dream of mine never to have a real job for a living.
Isn't that something? Both of us.
Yeah,
it's incredible,
it's
isn't it?
Great. Nestor, I hate to do it, but I've got to go. I've got another show to do.
Run on. It was great having you on. Really appreciate the time, Steve. Appreciate your work.
Thank you very much.
You got Steve Busby from the Texas Rangers play-by-play team doing a bunch of radio today. That's cool, man. Great having him on. And if you watch him pitch back in the 70s with the Royals as well, a couple of no-hitters. He's in the Royals Hall of Fame. Great pitcher back in the day. Good team there in Texas with Tom Grieve and Steve Busby. All right, you can find me out in the Bahia Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device. Just download the TuneIn radio app. We come in crystal clear. Next Tuesday night, we got head coach Brian Billick joining us at Green Greenmount Station in Hampstead. A little football conversation, some crab cakes, some ice cold beer. It's going to be a big night up in Carroll County as we make our triumphant return. I think my wife's going to join us up there as well for some good times. We always get a dessert and some crab cakes to go. They are tasty. Join us up there for some football conversation with our head coach on behalf of the Living Classrooms Foundation, Brian Billick, Tuesday, August 9th. That's this Tuesday up in Carroll County. All right, last but never least, I want to remind everybody, any breaking news that happens on the backfields in Owings Mills or at Camden Yards with the Orioles comes to you first on the WNST text service. It is our best service. It is brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Dennis will be here on Thursday driving you home from 3 until 5. Nasty at WNST.net reaches me. Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Snapchat, anywhere you are, we are. WNST.net AM 1570 and WNST Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports.